I'd like to begin our last COVID series for 2020. I am Adriana Sanford, the founding director of the OU Global Risk and Threats Series Leadership Forum. I am also the acting director of executive education for the Price College of Business for the University of Oklahoma. Frontline workers inspire all of us, and we would like to begin by thanking them. COVID-19 has not only changed the way we communicate, it has made us vulnerable and dependent on one another. For the past 4 months, we have come together for this 4-part series to provide guidance and insights regarding pandemic-related challenges. The OU Global Risk and Threats series is a joint effort of the Michael F. Price College of Business and the OU Center for Intelligence and National Security. It is comprised of a group of 50 experts, world leaders, industry experts, and visionaries that come together and have discussed different challenges related to this pandemic. This is not the end of the OU Global Risk and Threats Leadership Forum. It is the end, however, of the COVID series, unless, of course, we need to come back. But it has taken us from June all the way to today. I'd like to go ahead and thank these speakers and all of our previous speakers. The amount of time and dedication that they have given us for this event in order to share this with the global community has been ours. It is not just the 20 minutes or the 15 minutes that you will hear now. Rather, we have had interviews and we have had hour-long interviews that are basically edited down into these abstracts that you will be listening to today. Today we have David Shear, we have Jim Gordon, we have Anchal Gupta, Radhika Santanam, and Christian Edwards. I would like to thank also our sponsors that have been with us throughout this whole period, and in particular, Manufacturing Talk Radio, who has been live streaming all of our events. We would also like to thank ISC Squared, who has affiliated themselves with us for this event, as well as several other sponsors. Microsoft, Puga Ortiz, Israel Aerospace Industries, Ernst & Young, Aon, Spotify, Willis Tower Watson, Geosint, Coca-Cola Hellenic Bottle Company, the Basel Institute on Governance, the International Enforcement Law Reporter, Berliner Cochrane and Rowe, Task Force 7, the Voice of Cybersecurity, Strat Americas, Manchester Financial, Peritus Partners, Search Consultants International, World Towning, and Intelligenza. These sponsors have helped us to promote and have helped us to raise awareness about COVID and about the COVID challenges that the global community is currently facing. We'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the OU Price staff that has worked on these different events, and in particular, Wayne Thomas, who has been my support and is the Associate Dean, Senior Associate Dean for the Price College of Business. The staff includes Keith and Michael and Emily and Jessica. And I'd also like to mention a special thank you to Craig from Manufacturing Talk Radio because of the amount of work he's done on his end to make sure that that website looks great and that you can actually see this event. There is a disclaimer. The information that you're going to hear is basically the opinion and the content of the speaker and not any other third party. And none of the information that you're going to listen to is actually legal advice. It is meant to be there only for general information purposes. And we want to remind you that this pandemic and everything that's happening is moving very quickly. So laws are changing, and the information that you have today may be valid and tomorrow it may be a little bit different. So to the extent you're interested in any of these topics, I would suggest that you then research and make sure that you are updated on the content. What these speakers are providing is that overview of what's going on. It's a snapshot. So we'd like to go ahead and get started, and I'd like to start off by introducing our Dean of the Price College of Business and let him say a few words.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome. I'm Corey Phelps, Dean of the Michael F. Price College of Business here at the University of Oklahoma. While we all understand the role of healthcare in fighting the global pandemic, COVID has also demonstrated a greater need to better understand the business of healthcare. To help address the growing need for more healthcare professionals, Price College is moving forward with an undergraduate major in the business of healthcare and has established the Center for the Business of Healthcare, which serves as a catalyst for harnessing faculty from across disciplines at OU to improve the delivery of healthcare and serve the greater good of the state of Oklahoma and the nation. Another way that Price College is contributing to the healthcare challenges presented by COVID is by bringing together impressive thought leaders from around the world to share their expertise. The OU Global Risks and Threats series is a collaborative effort between the Price College of Business and the OU Center for Intelligence and National Security, and was created to help us find solutions to the problems caused by COVID. An important part of this series is promoting women in STEAM. To that end, one of today's presenters is Radhika Santhanam, the Michael F. Price Chair and Division Director of Management Information Systems here at OU's Price College of Business. We are thrilled to have such an effective leader like her with us today. I'd also like to thank Adriana Sanford for assembling the speakers for today's events and for the entire OU Global Risks and Threats series. Her incredibly hard work and thoughtfulness have helped to connect people in a global think tank with the purpose of addressing some of the most important issues of our time. Thanks to all of today's speakers for contributing both their time and their expertise. Special thanks to Manufacturing Talk Radio for live streaming our events to the global community for free, and to ISC Squared, the world's largest cybersecurity organization, who has been a partner throughout this series. Thanks also to our additional sponsors who are listed on our website. Finally, I'd like to recognize the Price College faculty and staff who have worked so hard throughout this series to help with technical logistics and promotions that have been seen all over the world. In particular, I'd like to thank Wayne Thomas, Jessica Mason, Keith LeBaron, Emily Hulsberg, and Michael Bendur for helping make this a successful series. I hope you enjoyed today's event. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to go ahead and introduce to you Larry Regens. Dr. Regens is the director of the OU Center for Intelligence and National Security. It is a center for intelligence community center for academic excellence. Dr. Regens is also a professor, and we have a clip from him.
So Adriana, first I'd like to thank you not only for the very gracious introduction that you just provided. It certainly is a privilege and an honor to be involved in this series. I'm delighted that the OU Center for Intelligence and National Security has partnered with the Price College of Business in this Global Threats and Risks seminar series. First, I'd like to thank all of our speakers, not only the ones for today, but the ones we've had in the prior sessions. We've had an amazing a number of individuals who have contributed their time voluntarily so that we can have this series. I also want to acknowledge the really generous role the Manufacturing Talk Radio has played in making each of these available on a complimentary basis to a global audience. In fact, I think it's particularly unique that we've been able to reach all of the continents with the exception of Antarctica in terms of participation, our other sponsors as well. So this has really been something where there's been a global coming together to address what is a global problem. And not only a global health problem, but a problem that involves the economy, it involves disruption and transformation in many cases of individuals' lives, the social order. And health is a good way to focus this today because in many respects we've come full circle. Our first session back in June looked at the threat posed by COVID to the larger society, to the economy. If you think about it today, we've made tremendous strides in the past 9 months in coming to grips with the recognition that it is a serious problem, that we're trying to move forward to bring to bear the best available science. In fact, it's amazing that in this short period of time that we've moved from having the genome to actually being at the stage of phase 3 clinical trials. I'm optimistic that we will be at the point where we may well have a safe and effective vaccine, in fact, potentially multiple safe and effective vaccines. But it's important to bear in mind that having a vaccine is not the same thing as having a vaccine campaign. And that's once again where the private sector, the public, governments all have to come together so that we can deal with the problem of COVID, not only as a health problem, but its economic dimensions and its social dimensions as both national communities and as a global community. And as a result, I think this series can speak verily volumes to a broad audience, and I'm delighted to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
Now, I am really excited to introduce our first speaker. He is the CEO of ISC Squared and the Center for Cyber Safety and Education, David Shear. Now, ISC Squared has a special place in my heart. I have been part of this organization. It is one of the world's largest international associations for cybersecurity leaders, and just a great place. So I am very happy to be able to introduce you to their CEO.
Good morning, Adriana, and it's great to be with you and this group of distinguished speakers. I look forward to hearing their comments and some of the challenges that we face and learn from them, as well as just participating in this and continuing to advance what the work you're doing. And congratulations on the reach that you're having. And we're looking forward to the session this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, I would like to go ahead and welcome David Shear to our program. He is the CEO of ISC Squared. ISC Squared is the largest global organizations or associations in the world for cybersecurity professionals.
Good morning, Adriana. Great to be with you. Congratulations on the success of the series. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Well, okay, we'll keep it light and try to have a little levity with it. Sometimes I'm introduced as the CEO of the CISSP because everybody knows the CISSP. It is our really flagship certification. And so around the world, it's probably the most widely recognized cybersecurity professional certification, but it's one of our certifications. So ISC Squared is the company, the association behind that certification. We have other specialized certifications in healthcare and cloud, in a secure lifecycle management. And then we have concentrations in the CISSP in engineering, architecture, and management. And so we have 9 different professional certifications that ISC Squared offers. And we have a membership of over 150,000 members around the world in 170 countries. And they've all bought into our vision, that is to inspire a safe and secure cyber world. So they're really out there fighting the good fight every day. Our guys and gals around the world, they're fighting an uphill battle. They're outfunded and outnumbered, but we continue to add to the profession, and we continue to bring people into the fold that want to be on the right side of the law and want to conduct themselves ethically and do some good in the world, to inspire a safe and secure cyber world, so that now with COVID, and I'm sure we're going to get into that with the major reliance on technology, we need to make sure that security is baked into our solutions and not added on or after the fact when a breach or something occurs, when a bad actor actually compromises an organization or an individual. A certification like one of ours offers hiring officials and organizations some sense of assurance that somebody understands what they're doing, they passed some form of examination. In our case, all of our members subscribe to a code of ethics to act honorably, justly, legally, to protect the infrastructure, these types of things that they commit to from an ethical standpoint. And when you're going to have cyber people that have carte blanche access to incredible amounts of infrastructure and software in an organization, but you want to know that they're not going to take advantage of the access that they have and do something that's counter, that takes on some bad actor type of presence within the organization that they work for. So that's what we try to put forth. And then, of course, with the association, the other thing you get with an IC Squared member is their commitment to lifelong learning. And we don't just leave that to the individual, that they do that out of the goodness of their heart. In order to keep the certification, they have continuing professional education requirements that they have to meet each year to maintain their certification. So that's right. Our certifications offer hiring officials some sense of assurance that the person they're hiring has passed some form of a rigorous examination, that they know what they're doing relative to cybersecurity. And as you point out, it's a very broad field. And the challenge is, you specialize in privacy and law, and that's a facet of cybersecurity. But there's a whole broad range of topics, from encryption, from networks, from software development, building in security into the software development so that the software that we deploy to our systems don't introduce vulnerabilities and counter some of the hard work that our people are doing around the world. So I think, these are the things that we try to inspire as an association and through our membership. But I always try to shy away from that cybersecurity expert, because there are things in law and privacy that far better than I do. And so when somebody, lots of times, because I'm the CEO of the association, they want to say I'm a cybersecurity expert, I cringe a little bit at that, because there are so many different topics of cybersecurity. That's what makes it so challenging. And that's really the strength of the CISSP. Some people say that the CISSP is a mile wide, inch deep. It's probably a mile wide, maybe a quarter mile deep, or whatever debate we can have with that. But we really see that as the strength of it, because if you don't understand cybersecurity programmatically, you can't really run it in the specialized, detailed areas, and you don't know how to put a team together that's going to be able to confront the broad range of challenges that you're going to face as an organization when you take on trying to secure your critical assets and make sure that you're conducting your business in a way that your customers are going to be loyal to you because they feel like they can trust to do business with you. They can trust any information that you hold on their behalf is going to be safe and secure. And that kind of leads back to that whole IC squared vision of a safe and secure cyber world. A massive shift to the reliance of technology on a scale we've never seen before. As schools go full-time online, as organizations move to full-time remote work, or at least in the near long term, they're going to be working remotely. And then to exacerbate that, we see the commingling of personal and professional devices. Corporate devices are going home to personal networks and Wi-Fi's on a scale we've just never seen before. So, I mean, I don't know that there's a nutshell that you could do when it comes to cybersecurity. But, one of the things we have to be careful of, that there's an incredible pressure to scale our technology to meet the demands of school and businesses and so forth. And that is fraught with the opportunity to overlook security as we do that scaling process. And so I would caution CIOs, CTOs, CISOs. I would even caution boards that are overseeing or governing, the way a company and an organization is scaling. Just because we've brought on 50,000, 100,000 employees and everything appears to be working, the next question should be: do we think we have introduced any security vulnerabilities that we didn't think about? And if so, what are we doing to do that? So with the COVID, if we look at it through the lens of COVID, there's an incredible pressure to scale. There's an incredible pressure to bring everything online. And when there's pressure, there's that old saying, you want it bad, you get it bad. So I would caution people to look at best practices, make sure they have the type of cyber staff on hand that knows that as they're building out, they're taking on these projects, almost going through massive digital transformations at a scale, at a pace. I mean, doing it so fast, being forced that way, because this can mean the difference between businesses going out of business and meeting the needs of their customers. With schools, it could be the difference of, can we continue to educate our young? And the dynamics and the paradoxes that exist there, that if they're not in school, there are dangers associated that they may not be getting food that they rely on. They may not be able to tell people things that might be happening on the home front that could pose a danger to them. And if they're at home, they may be vying for the technology. They're the haves and have-nots. Not everybody has a computing device for everybody in the family. And so there's a whole range of things there that to make sure that as we scale, we know that there's incredible pressure to meet the needs of businesses and the public. But let's make sure that we're building security into that. And I think this is something that IC Squared has been trying to point out for years through our workforce studies and so forth, and raising the awareness of gender inequity, and then even going that much further and looking at diversity inequities, especially here in the United States, where we have so much diversity. When there's a dearth of talent and you need to fill the talent, you want to draw from all parts of and all walks of life. Not just because of the age-long, the biases and hiring biases that exist, and that we're all trying to raise awareness, and the Black Lives Matter movements and all are raising awareness that we have biases and we need to work on that. But these are the generations we're going to draw from. These are the most diverse generations of our lifetime. So diversity is a part of what's happening. We just need to make sure that we're building teams that represent that population. And women, I would offer even a different take, that as both parents have started to work, And so I'm an international CEO, but I live in the United States. So I tend to get more US news and try to stay as up as I can on international issues. But what we hear here in the United States is even women that are in the workforce are that maternal instinct is driving them to say, maybe I need to leave the workforce to be home for the homeschooling and making sure that the kids and everything are okay, understanding that there are concerns that even schools that are trying to open, parents rightfully have concerns. Are they going to be able to protect their children? So it's kind of the double whammy that prior to COVID, these challenges existed. But every time you take a natural or human-made disaster, it exacerbates impacts or things that were there before that. And you're exactly right. I think these types of things, when you're forcing a whole family home, and maybe they're sharing, if you're like time sharing the computer, mom and dad are trying to work, and the kids are trying to do their homework. This is creating, incredible challenges on the home front. But we still need to continue to raise awareness. And I think just the fact that we talk about it and series like this, that you get into these types of questions, amplifies the need for us to remain committed to this. And I would even add, outside of gender inequity, which is easier for us to cover globally because, men or women around the world, is there an equitable distribution from a gender standpoint? But then when you get into racial inequities that exist, it takes on different meanings in different parts of the world. And we still need to remain open to that because from our standpoint, IC Squared, we believe that diversity helps us solve problems, that those experiences and just the difference in the way people think, in men and women particularly, women historically know scientifically that have a very good way of blending right and left brain thinking. So there's that creative and that analytical. This is an extremely powerful combination. And so, we just try to raise awareness to hiring officials that if you want to have the best team, you have to be considering diversity. And oh, by the way, the generations that you're going to be drawing from to build your team are going to be the most diverse of our time.
Yeah, and because of the millennials are stepping up. Generation X, they know how to make this work.
Exactly. So as people like myself get a little older, a lot grayer, lose a lot more hair, we can't be thinking in those old models. We can't be thinking today. We need to be developing and encouraging highly diverse teams to take this on. And to your point, both looking at gender inequity and also looking at other inequities that exist. And we did a study in the United States with the International Consortium of Minority Cyber Professionals, the ICMCP, a few years back, to look at diversity in the United States in the cyber profession. And there were some very interesting findings there. And by amplifying that and raising that awareness, we try to bring awareness to people that are hiring people and looking at the composition of their teams and maybe doing that personal and sometimes organizational introspection. Are there hiring biases? Are we truly putting together the best and most diverse teams?
Mm-hmm.
It's an excellent point, but I'll just offer something for you and your viewers to consider. We looked at this, and in the United States, very well that we have some STEM challenges, getting young people interested in STEM and STEAM, which now brings the arts in there, and that's that left-right brain combination, right? Are the bad actors that do cyber crime and cyber attacks are highly creative. They're not just analytical, they're highly creative. So we're all in on STEAM, STEM turning to STEAM and adding the arts in there. But when we look at the APAC region, who has outpaced the United States since like 1995 in the number of STEM students that they put out through their college and university, they still have a shortage of cyber folks. So it's not just that we need STEM, we need to be doing a better job of communicating to young people and even people that want to cross-train and come into a new profession. The great opportunities and challenges that exist within the profession, because APAC has a lot of STEM students and we still see shortages within that region when we do our global workforce studies. And so it's not just getting them involved in STEM, it's doing a better job of communicating that cybersecurity can be a great career path for people. You're absolutely right, Adriana. I mean, you mentioned clicking on a link in an email can negate millions of dollars. Maybe you could have a whole cadre of cyber folks that are doing really great work. And so that end user, that employee awareness of how they can contribute and also create a problem. They can contribute to a high security posture through their behavior and their principles, practices, and procedures, or they could actually do something that, they just they see as innocuous. They don't see it as a problem, but clicking on a link and it launches some type of inside of all that perimeter security and all the hard work you've done, launches something that creates a problem for a corporation. So it really is, I kind of look at it similar. There's some similarities between COVID-19 and cybersecurity in that my feeling is it's going to take a global sustained response to deal with cybersecurity. I believe it's going to take a global sustained response to deal with COVID. So the weakest link analogy that we always talk about looms large. In the United States, the state that has the highest infection rates with people traveling across state lines is only going to perpetuate COVID-19. The company that's doing business with other companies that has the lowest security posture can introduce cyber threats to the companies and the people they're interacting with, and they may not even be aware of it. So there are a lot of similarities in how these things occur, but they're also, these are extremely challenging problems to solve. COVID being probably one of our largest public policy challenges in our lifetimes. I mean, it's easy to sit on the sidelines and critique what's going on, but public policy is hard enough. It's inherently challenging in the best of times. Throw in a pandemic, and it's fraught with paradoxes. And cybersecurity is very similar that way.
And Congress just keeps getting bigger and better.
Squared is there. All around the world right now, people are more secure and better able to enjoy their lives because Squared is there, because you are there.
Now my challenge. You've got your phone in one hand. I want you to take your other hand. I want to take your finger. I want you to put it on the power button. And I want you to turn off the phone. I heard a no.
But sometimes it does pay to take a risk, to take ownership and take action on an idea.
Thanks again for joining us. And remember, Squared is there.
David, if I may ask you a couple questions. Can you explain what we mean when we refer to cybersecurity resiliency? You're muted. There we go.
Thank you. Appreciate that. In very basic terms, it's the ability for an organization to sustain a cyber attack or a data breach and still deliver their products and services. And when we think of that in the context of healthcare and that life-saving aspects of healthcare, it's a very important capability to have cybersecurity resiliency within the healthcare system.
And can you expand a little bit on how the pandemic is actually impacting the cybersecurity resiliency and how that relates to the healthcare industry?
Absolutely. So earlier this year, the CEO of Microsoft pointed out that they have seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it's that massive scale of technology and technical solutions that comes into bear. So as healthcare tries to meet those needs for telework, for remote work, for virtually all of their operations, they're scaling a lot of technical solutions, and they're likely capturing more information. And all of those things need to be thought about relative to cybersecurity and their resiliency to be able to maintain their operations, even if they are under an attack. An attack doesn't mean they've been breached or heaven forbid they do have a breach, and we see, last year's breaches around the world, healthcare represented almost 40% of those breaches. So we know that healthcare is targeted extremely highly relative to cyber attacks. So that cyber resiliency is critical to the healthcare industry.
Well, and I think especially right now with data privacy, we've got GDPR, we have CCPA coming into place, but we still see with everyone working from home and some sheltered in place, this is particularly a dangerous situation for healthcare. How does ISC Square help counter that concern, those dangers?
Well, we know that information security and privacy go hand in glove, right? You can't really have one without the other. If you had no privacy issues, then you wouldn't need information security. But what we have to do is we have to identify those assets and apply the proper information security. So ISC Squared has our healthcare information security and privacy practitioner certification that's geared towards healthcare IT professionals and really anyone within the healthcare system that has responsibility for securing PII, personally identifiable information. And you can imagine with this scale of technical solutions, it's highly likely that healthcare systems are collecting more and more information that their patients have a high expectation that they're going to secure. So that certification is really geared to give hiring officials assurances that the people working in the healthcare industry that are doing IT or records management or data administration understand the best practices relative to information security and privacy.
Well, and this is a big deal because different countries are at different stages. Here in the United States, we've adopted the CCPA and we are pretty comfortable, or we're trying to get comfortable with the GDPR. We have other countries out there where they're just starting to adopt the GDPR, or they are just starting to look at privacy. So something like this is really, really important, especially the fact that it's available on a worldwide basis.
Yes, your viewers, if you're interested in our healthcare certification, they can go to isc2.org. So that's ISC, the number 2.org, and just select certifications. You'll see all of our certifications there. But if you're particularly interested in healthcare, you'll see our healthcare page there, and it'll give you all the background and the information on that certification, information on preparing for that examination, and it'll help you really identify if it might be right for you relative to your professional responsibilities.
Great, wonderful. Now you are also the CEO of the Center for Cyber Safety and Education. Can you give us a quick description?
Of course, thank you. So our Center for Cyber Safety and Education is a nonprofit organization, just like we are. It's separate and distinct from ISC Squared because we raise funding there for scholarships for people that are seeking higher education in cybersecurity. And also, what's really important, really the bread and butter of that organization is social impact. And so we've teamed up with Garfield, and Garfield helps us through videos and through comic books and posters, educate our young how to be safe and responsible digital citizens. We also try to educate our seniors who are highly vulnerable online. And so those are two populations that are highly vulnerable that we've targeted. And so there's a lot there. We have scholarships running right now. So if you have people or viewers that are interested in looking at scholarships relative to cybersecurity, they can go to IamCyberSafe.org. So that's all together, IamCyberSafe.org, and they can learn about the Garfield program that our corporations are using to, for employees and their children at home, and schools and libraries are using, and they can learn about the scholarships as well.
Well, and the Garfield program goes down to, I think, like kindergarten.
Yes.
Right? Am I correct?
It's really
coloring books and
K through 5, 6 is really the target range for the Garfield. But I'll tell you what, Garfield has been around for over 35 years. I like watching the videos too. So that might be our target audience, but pretty much anyone that watches those videos has a good time with them.
Awesome. So parents can watch them with the kids.
Exactly.
So, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on our show, and we look forward to more collaboration in the future.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Adriana.
Thanks. Our next speaker is a Price College professor. She is the Price Endowed Chair and the Division Director of MIS. Her name is Dr. Radhika Santanam. Good morning, Radhika.
Good morning, Adriana. Thank you for organizing this nice panel, and it's so interesting to hear different perspectives on one of the most challenging issues of our time.
It really is. It's a great opportunity to get together and to collaborate, and not only collaborate here in this space, but collaborate in the future. And that network is I think, very, very strong and very, very important today, given the challenges that we have are unprecedented and we are uncertain as to where we're going. So the ability to have that network is really, really great. And it's great for our students as well. We'd like to go ahead and play a video that we prepared from last night that we were actually finishing up.
So thank you, Adriana, for organizing this Reshaping the Healthcare Business as part of this OU Global Risks and Threats series. And I am so pleased to be here to talk about healthcare IT professionals and how they are so critical for this COVID-19 economic recovery. And it's so nice that there are so many different speakers on topics very, very related to this COVID-19 and economic recovery. And so I'm really pleased that I can interact and be part of this series. So let me start with saying, you asked, what is the role of healthcare IT professionals in this? And I want to start off by saying we had a great demand for health IT professionals even before COVID. So all this started, I would say, around 2009 when the HITECH Act came into force. And so hospitals, as well as many healthcare organizations, started greater use of technology. And so the catalyst, I would say, was regulation, and there were incentives for using technology. So the healthcare organization then started looking at how to improve efficiencies, how to improve workflows, how to get better hospital performance by using technology. And it was a lot of record keeping, electronic health records technology, health IT systems, and also some level of planning using analytics so that healthcare outcomes could be improved. And the planning would be like, okay, let's optimize. How do we use our operating rooms more efficiently? How could we be getting into supply chain and other transactions in a more efficient way? And of course, behind all of this is your pet area, there was always this need to be compliant with the regulations, exchanging of personal health records, privacy issues. So there was a great need for health IT professionals who know how to use technology and really get hospitals and healthcare organizations into the information age, so to say, in at least in the area of managing health and patients. And therefore, I looked at one of the projections by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and 1 out of 6 jobs, or rather the growth rate that was projected was at 8% between the years 2019 and 2029, which was double the average rate for other jobs. So you see how critical the demand was. There was a shortage, actually, of healthcare and IT professionals. And then came COVID, right? So what happened with COVID is then all this demand just escalated. And not only did it escalate, the demand is now so urgent because we need to not only treat patients and recover from a health perspective, but we also need to recover from an economic perspective. And so what is it about the healthcare that is slightly different? One, we are going to have to provide access to many more citizens. You know, you hear about hospitals really being overwhelmed with the number of patients. And so you're going to be treating more patients and seeing more clients and patients. You have to cover a greater geographic areas. You need to reach into rural areas. You need to be much more efficient. And importantly, you need to be predictive in the sense that you have to be forward-looking, right? I mean, you can't. This is not a time where you say, oh, let's wait for the patient to come to the hospital. But instead, what you need to do is do some location analytics and figure out, okay, this is going to be a hotspot. Let's get ready and let's try to prevent, the big overwhelming of the hospital facilities in that area. Another way is to what is now called as behavioral analysis. You look at masking, you look at, congregation of people. So you start tracking people's behaviors, and then through that, you get better prepared. So it's a lot of planning that needs to be done. It's not, the technology uses now what I would say is even more intelligent use. And one area where it's really grown so much is in the area of telemedicine. So telemedicine, Forrester research predicted that there is going to be 1 billion visits, 1 billion virtual visits this year alone, of which close to about 900 million is going to be due to COVID-19. And so telemedicine as a technology has become so popular. And the same survey that was done by Forrester says that 25% of healthcare organizations have it. In other words, 75%, as per their prediction, do not have access to telemedicine. So you need health IT professionals to help you use these technologies and the new type of technologies, like I mentioned, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and what the other term that is being used now is what is known as non-pharmaceutical interventions, NPI. What this means is it's not a clinical intervention. It's not after the patient has come, but it is before, looking at behaviors, like I mentioned, and then being able to predict, make use of robots to perhaps hand out sanitizing wipes, right? Mobile applications, so that now you reach remote areas, you text messages saying, please wash your hands. So healthcare providers can then reach to their customers and say, did you engage in these type of behaviors today? Did you wash your hands? Did you do this? So it's a lot of patient monitoring, very personalized medicine. And all of this, as I mentioned, has created much more demand for health IT professionals. And it's not just IT professionals, some of the healthcare professionals, like the doctors and nurses, also need some help in using these technologies. And I'm going to show a slide here wherein I went into one of the forums, physician and nurses forum, where they exchange their experiences. And I picked up a few of those statements. And as you read these statements, you can see how some of the physicians who were not as inclined to use technology earlier now see the potential of telemedicine and other technologies. And you can also see where they are having problems. It's one statement says, 50% of my telemedicine encounters have some sort of technical issue that we easily spend the first 10 minutes dealing with. It's a waste of time. It is frustrating. You want our healthcare professionals to be treating and not spending time on, technology and, improving and fixing it. So we need a lot of health IT people to help this use of technology, to identify intelligent uses of technology. The data that is coming is not all structured data, so you want to do some text analytics. You want to do the behavioral analysis, combine it, and then be able to be ready and to say, okay, this is going to be a hotspot. Location analytics is something that we've used before, but now it's going to become even more important, geolocation analysis. So in many different ways, what we are going to see is greater need of technology, intelligent use of technology, supporting role of technology. And I want to emphasize here, Adriana, that, if this technology was just a widget, you go purchase or like a light bulb and, fix it up. And then, you may say, oh, health professionals, nurses and doctors can go ahead and use this technology. It's not that kind of off-the-shelf software or hardware. It's really, again, I emphasize intelligent use of technology, because when you get telemedicine, you can use it like now, the way that we are doing, that we use it like a Zoom, just a kind of a medium to exchange. But you can also use telemedicine in a very intelligent way by doing some remote monitoring. So you talk to your patients and then monitor their behavior via remote monitoring. And then the question is not just getting the data, what do you do with the data? How do you analyze it and help your patient so that we can prepare our health IT professionals? Coming from the business school, I think they really have an advantage that they understand workflow, they understand what is organizational revenue generation, revenue cycle management. So they are in the best position. And not only do we develop the skills, we also create knowledge, because we do a lot of research on telemedicine. In fact, I had got a grant from Presbyterian to look at the extent to which IT can improve hospital performance. So you track and see where is the improved performance in patient outcomes, in economic performance. One of our faculty did a work on the Telestroke Network, and this was a research that got a lot of press because it won the Best Paper Award. Rural areas in Georgia and South Carolina had the telemedicine set up, but they were not using it. Why not? So he spent a lot of time understanding and figuring out that there were structural issues. So there's a whole lot of knowledge creation, and this knowledge development along with knowledge creation, I think, is really going to improve, what I call as improved health, wellness, and economic wealth. So that's what we are doing, and we hope to be participating in this economic recovery in a very big way.
So we are back, and Radhika, I really enjoyed putting that together with you, and those slides we will make available on the website so that everyone can see that and really have time to appreciate the amount of work that went into those to that presentation. The next speaker that I would like to introduce is someone from Intel. He is the General Manager for the Economic Recovery Innovation Investments in Intel's Pandemic Response Technology Initiative. He is also Intel's former Chief of Staff to the former President of Intel, Jim Gordon.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for the invitation.
We've also put together a video, and then we'll have a couple of questions for Jim afterwards. We have with us today Jim Gordon, who is Intel's former Chief of Staff to the President, and he is the current General Manager for the Economic Recovery Pandemic Response Initiative. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Could you tell us a little bit about your current role and what it is that you are doing to help the community with regards to this pandemic?
Sure. So I've been with Intel for 23 years and had a lot of different roles during that time. Currently, I am serving as the lead for Intel's economic recovery element of its Pandemic Response Technology Initiative. I'll refer to that as PRTI during our conversation, so I don't have to keep saying that over and over again. So the PRTI is Intel's combined coordinated response to the pandemic. It is the one place that we are combining our technology, our money, contributing to the pandemic response, and our innovation and our partnerships to make a difference. And what that's looked like has evolved since we first kicked it off. We have 3 work streams in the PRTI. One is around health and life sciences, so putting our investment in technology and innovation to work to advance the health and life sciences element of combating COVID-19. Second is distance learning, so helping the teachers and schools around the nation adjust to what is happening and continue the education of students at all different levels, mostly K through 12, but really at all different levels, and particularly in underserved communities. And then third, the economic recovery element, which is the part I lead, is intended to use technology and innovation and partnerships to get companies back to work and to keep them working. Because as we know, there's really, there's no difference in a sense between the economy and health. They both impact each other. So if the economy is healthy, then we think the pandemic will, have less of an effect on the world. So I think it's fair to say that healthcare has been relatively slow to adopt and embrace technology in the delivery of healthcare solutions at all different levels. And so when this pandemic kicked off, I think it served as a big challenge for healthcare at all different levels to accelerate the use of technology, because at the end of the day, technology is going to help us get through this pandemic much quicker than we would be able to without it at all different levels, including in the delivery of healthcare. And also, you think about healthcare, it's not just the delivery of care to the person who's sick, but also the research and data analytics of finding a solution to COVID, be it treatments or eventually a vaccine. So all of those elements are really at play here. And what we have, reassure ourselves of is that technology can make a difference. Adopting new approaches, new innovations can definitely get everybody through this quicker and with less impact. Intel's customers are around the world. We sell microprocessors and platform components to customers in every country on Earth. And so when we do something like the Pandemic Response Technology Initiative, we do it on a global scale. And we're one of a few number of companies that are able to do that successfully. So whether you're talking about distance learning or health and life sciences or economic recovery, we're making investments in partners and customers around the globe, ranging from Africa to Europe, Middle East, and of course in the United States. But we wanted to keep an open mind so that if our customers and partners came to us with innovations and ideas that would make a difference for COVID-19 recovery, that we would be in a position to to help and to invest. And so it became apparent early on that we could and we should make investments in the area of economic recovery. We had a lot of great ideas come to us from partners and from customers that, like I said, were intended to help businesses get back to business and to stay in business. And so when these ideas started coming in, some really natural focus areas emerged. And these are not focus areas that we started off with. These are focus areas that we observed from our partners and from our customers. So for example, social distance monitoring and enabling. So if you're a company and you're trying to get open or stay open, you're faced with dealing with a lot of new rules and regulations. And those rules and regulations change all the time. And so you not only have to understand what you're being asked to do and how to do it, but also how to implement it and to stay on top of it so that if it changes, you can change too. And so crowd social distance monitoring, health screening for employees or customers coming into a space, using technology to assess the risk. I call it new behavior. I call it new behavior enabling and expectation enforcement. So social distancing, washing hands, behaving in the way that you're being asked to behave. Transportation, health and safety enhancements. So understanding the air handling of airplanes or in office buildings and how that affects, the transmission and spread of COVID-19. And then there's also a lot of, I think, applied, basic applied research that will impact many different areas of business. So for example, surface coatings that maybe make it more difficult for a virus to stick to a surface. We're doing some things with a couple of universities there. So there's these focus areas that have emerged that I think will help us get through COVID faster than we otherwise could, but also have, pay dividends to all industries indefinitely as we face the next challenge, whatever that might be. Sure. Prior to this current role, I worked in cybersecurity at Intel, and specifically in getting our innovations out to the marketplace to help advance the effort around cybersecurity from consumer to enterprise to government. And in that context, I was quite heavily involved in advancing issues of gender equality in the workplace, underrepresented minorities in the workplace, both attracting new talent into technology, but also helping to advance that talent up through the ranks over the years and to make sure that the environment that we provide for our employees is one where people want to work and where everybody's voice is heard. Yeah, so diversity and inclusion at Intel has been a part of our DNA for a long time. And right now it is as important or more important than it's ever been. And we have many, many different types of investments and initiatives to help advance diversity and inclusion in the workplace. look at MBAs and advanced degrees as a means to the end, not the end themselves. So they're a tool, right? So if I come out of undergraduate and worked inside Intel and already been in the place that I wanted to be, then maybe an MBA wouldn't have been necessary for me. But I feel like many students need to think about it as a mechanism to get where you want to go. Do you want to advance within your existing company? Do you want to change industries? Do you want to change companies within industries? Or do you want to change functions within a company? And if any of those things are true, then an advanced degree may be appropriate. In my case, it was a business degree, and in my case, it was to help me transition from one industry to the next. But everybody's different. And so I encourage students to evaluate it based upon what their objectives are and where they are right now. So before I worked at Intel, I did not work in technology. I worked in a completely unrelated field. Like I said, I've worked at Intel for 23 years. So you can do the math and put yourself back in that time period of what technology was like back then. But I always knew that I wanted to make a transition into technology. And I always knew that there were just a couple companies back then that I felt were going to be a part of the future of the world around technology and how technology is going to change the world. And Intel was one of those. And so my mechanism for making a transition from the industry I was in before to technology was through getting a master's degree in business. It's been a long journey, but I have learned so much, and it's been such a fulfilling career. And it seems almost passé right now to say you want to work in technology, but the change between now and the next 23 years is going to be even more dramatic than the first 23 years of my career here at Intel. And so I would encourage students to really pursue a career in technology, be it on the software side or hardware side, research or sales. It's all an exciting place to be, and it's only going to get more so. The pandemic has forced large enterprise, small, medium business, government, healthcare providers to go faster than they otherwise would, to go faster in adopting and testing technology than they feel comfortable doing. But, we have to do collectively what we have to do. And at least the technology is there. And at least we're going to be able to, continue on doing business, providing healthcare, providing education, whereas even 5 or 6 years ago, I think we would have been challenged to do that. Right, and it goes without saying that having students learn from home, having healthcare delivered through telemedicine to your home, and having every employee work from home, presents new risks and increases the overall risk profile for any one of those activities. And kind of a theme I had been speaking about earlier is that chief information security officers have been under the gun over the last few years to really change the directionality of cybersecurity. I mean, I oftentimes say, and CISOs don't like me saying this, but if you look at the aggregate investment of dollars into cybersecurity year after year, we keep investing more and more and more, but the damage from cybersecurity keeps going up also. So you invest more, you expect to have some return, but in aggregate, more data records are stolen, more privacy concerns are uncovered, more dollars are stolen. So they've been under the gun to catch up and to change this. And I think that CISOs around the world should be, pretty proud and happy about how they've performed by deploying technology and making sure the regulations that they live by are actually being effective during this pandemic. Because I was very concerned going into COVID-19 that we weren't ready, collectively we weren't ready from a cybersecurity standpoint. But there have been a lot fewer major breaches and major issues than I expected during this. And I think that's testament to the technology industry, to the CISOs that are out there working hard to change the game, and to security researchers at universities and in private sector. particularly over the last few years, we've seen more and more chief information security officers and executives in the C-suite collaborate around cybersecurity to share information, to partner for better solutions and better outcomes than we would have ever imagined even 5 years ago. And it's, I think it's partly out of necessity. Technology providers are, doing more together to produce better outcomes. Business people and CISOs are, reaching out, being more open, being more transparent, and being more collaborative. And I think that's a necessity if we are to change the directionality of cybersecurity outcomes. And we have really no choice but to collaborate and to be transparent and to share our learnings and take risks to reduce the detrimental outcomes.
Hi, my name is Jim Gordon, and I've worked for Intel for 23 years. During those years, I've become more and more involved in the topics of inclusion and equality in the workplace. And it's a personal topic for me because I have 2 young, wonderful daughters. As you begin your journey, here are 3 tips to consider. Number 1, get engaged, be active, do not sit on the sidelines. Number 2, always be learning. This is a topic that changes frequently. And number 3, be visible, speak up. Have your actions and your words be how you lead.
Okay, Jim, if I may, I have a couple questions for you. If you can tell us a little bit more about this Intel fund and the amount of the fund.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So the fund itself is $50 million. That was our public commitment. But the only thing to keep in mind is that with any initiative like this, Intel's investments are they're amplified by the matching investments of partners and customers, as well as the incredible energy and an effort on all parties. There are well over at least 100 investments that we've made so far that range from basic material science research to commercial air handling, for example, and everything in between. It's exciting because, as always, we get to see what the tech industry can accomplish when it works together, which is no less than changing the world. In this case, it's in response to something horrific, but we're going to get through this together.
And what are your thoughts as far as that goes? What is your thought on the permanent impact that this pandemic is going to leave on us?
But first, I think it goes without saying that we're not through this yet, not by any stretch of the imagination, and it's especially true with respect to the economic impact of COVID. However, the experience will make us all stronger. It will make us more agile. We will be more prepared for really all manner of disruptions that may arise in the future. And while this is painful, the experience is really pushing us all to accelerate innovation and transparency and security, like I mentioned in the video. All of it. We are all going to exit this in a better place. And one of the core philosophies that Intel has had from its founders is that we invest in the downturns, in the tough spots, so that we exit stronger and we accelerate out of the dips. And I think if you step back and you look at what we're all doing, from universities to enterprise to governments, that's collectively what we're all doing right now. And I think as a result, we will exit stronger and we'll accelerate out of this.
That's a good point. And I think we do have the ability when we do see this type of collaboration, we have the ability to design our future. And we have a blank slate right now because we've never been in this situation. And we're seeing people working from home. We're seeing permanent workforces that are going remote, and the ability to be able to look at this and say, okay, this is where we want the future. This is where we want tomorrow to go.
Yeah, that's right. It's a tough way to have to get to that point, but it's very true.
It is. Well, thank you so much for joining us and spending this time with us. And we hope to see you at the University of Oklahoma when this is over and the pandemic subsides and we're all traveling again.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It was fun.
Wonderful. Our next guest is a Microsoft executive. Anchal Gupta is Microsoft's VP of Engineering, and I'd like to go ahead and welcome her to the Leadership Series.
Thank you, Adriana. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I know we had fun working together as this group. I'm thrilled to be part of this series. This is an important conversation to have at this time. And I really appreciate University of Oklahoma and you and everyone who is working with you to put this together. It takes incredible amount of energy and effort. So thank you for doing this.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I will go ahead and play the video that we put together. And Anchal Gupta is the Vice President for Engineering for Azure Security in Cloud and Artificial Intelligence Division for Microsoft. She is also the former CISO for Facebook for the Cryptocurrency Initiative.
Hi, Adriana. I'm super excited to be here. And I know we can't meet in person and have this conversation face to face with our audience or with each other, but still thrilled to be here. And I'm so happy we still have this ability to collaborate with experts from around the world and share our learnings during this pandemic. It's actually transforming it in a very substantial way, I would say. All the digital transformation that we were expecting in next 2 years, it happened so quickly over the first 2 months of pandemic. And it has been really rough for some enterprises because they were not prepared. Just to give you an example, like some of the enterprises, they were still relying heavily on perimeter security. For them, coming within the boundary and then doing the critical and sensitive work is how they function. Now with pandemic, their entire workforce went remote because they all were working from home, sheltered in place. And the whole dynamic changed. They could not bring people within the walls of their company to do this critical work. I would say some companies were already on this journey, so to speak. And when I say journey, I'm talking about having this zero trust model. So what is zero trust model? Zero trust model is where you do not trust any of the requests coming into your servers, into your services. You say, I'm going to treat every request as coming from open internet, and I'm going to authenticate, authorize, and encrypt every request. Because that way I give full flexibility to my employees. So some companies, when I say they were already on this journey because they were supporting employees accessing things using their mobile devices, or they had services running in cloud, or they were using other software as a service providers. So given all of these different permutations, they were already not relying on hard perimeter as their boundary and securing that perimeter because then internet was their perimeter. So it was easier for those companies to transition. But for companies who were not onto this journey, it became harder. So where they are starting is the very first thing they are doing is adding multi-factor authentication. We at Microsoft, actually, we did a survey of roughly 800 companies with more than 500 employees because having to support more than 500 employees who have suddenly gone remote overnight is a challenge. And what we found is that now 58% of the companies, they are investing more in security. And 82% companies are hiring more security workforce to help secure this change landscape. what surprises me, and probably surprises a lot of us, I think you and I would agree on this, that this is a tough time. This is a tough time for everyone. And you would expect that hackers would have a little bit more conscience and they would leave the healthcare sector alone during this time. But unfortunately, that's not how this is going. Like, they are totally attacking the healthcare system with ransomware. So they are going after both your hospitals and emergency rooms, as well as the companies which are doing clinical trials for vaccine. And the reason is, overall, the healthcare system has really personal data on their patients. And these hackers, they can sell it for a good amount. Also, when they install a ransomware, in some of these instances, they lock all this data up, and now the doctors and nurses, they don't have access to this critical data, so they cannot treat the patients in that time. Like if they have to administer some dosage of medication and their systems are locked up, they don't even know which medication to be given to which patient and what amount. So banks feel like, oh, I need to get myself unlocked very quickly. They end up paying ransom, and that's what these attackers are exploiting. They are going after something really low hanging, I would say. The way they get foothold into any of these servers is either by phishing the employees or by exploiting a vulnerability that has already been patched by the service provider. So if you just go and patch your servers, make sure that you have only the desired ports open and you know what your entire landscape looks like, then you can secure your systems without having to worry about ransomware. Phishing is another big one, I would say. We as security industry, we have been trying to change the user behavior for last few decades, where we are doing all these user trainings of like, you should have 20 character long passwords. There should be a unique password for each website or each service that you use. And just imagine, like, you and I, how many services do we use? And if we have to have these many passwords, yes, we can use some of the solutions like 1Password or LastPass to store our passwords, but this is not a very scalable model. Expecting our users to change behavior and have unique password that is 20 characters long minimum for each site is just not going to work. So I personally feel it's our responsibility to provide solutions where users can behave normally, rather than expecting them to become experts in detecting phishing emails and to be able to review every link that they get and see whether it is a legit link or not. How about if we have our detections in place? How about if we provide things like passwordless authentication or multi-factor authentication? Because these are some of the solutions which really help you scale the system without asking your users to change their baseline behavior.
But there was one change that I liked that you mentioned, which was cell phones and cell phone numbers. If you could.
Yeah, so when you and I talked about, we were talking about how sharing your cell phone number publicly, what are the challenges of that? And SIM swapping is one big challenge, because if you're using your cell phone number as your second factor auth, then what attackers can do is, if they have compromised your password, now they can do SIM swapping for your phone number, and they can easily get that second factor token delivered to their device, and hence they can access your account. And so my advice is that the public phone number that you use for actually giving it to your friends and posting it anywhere for someone to reach you, don't use that as your second factor auth. Create another phone number and don't share it with anyone. Just keep it to yourself and use it for your second factor authentication, so that you are just, when you think, Adriana, when you think about How do you protect yourself? You have to just increase the cost for the attacker. The more expensive it gets for them, the harder it is for them to compromise you. So now, in addition to password, they also have to figure out what that phone number is that they have to do SIM swapping on, because they cannot find it posted on a website. If you use authenticator apps in place of phone number as your second factor authentication, the challenge is that sometimes the service providers don't support anything other than the phone number for second factor authentication. That's when you have to think through this. But if your provider supports any other mechanism like FIDO tokens or authenticator apps, I would say go with authenticator apps. They are super easy to use. Actually, that's an excellent question, because you're right. And I have 8 years of background in identity. So I know some of the things, how they work under the hood. From security aspect, I think it's better you pick one of those versus creating a separate account with this provider. And why I'm saying that is, say you pick sign in with Facebook or sign in with Google. You have account only with Facebook, and Facebook is using OAuth protocol under the hood, and they are sending the token over to this provider, indicating that you have successfully authenticated, and here is the token, so they can sign you in. It's kind of a single sign-on mechanism.
Interesting.
Now, the benefit is you are getting all the security benefits of this identity provider like Facebook or Google, whoever you are using. And the company from which the services you are accessing, they do not have to worry about securing the entire sign-in flow. The only thing probably you should watch out for when you are doing sign-in with a third party, or the service provider who you are accessing the services from is asking for too much from this identity provider, you can always unselect and only let the things that you feel you are comfortable sharing. This is an excellent question, Adriana, and I think we need to have more and more attention and focus to this for multiple reasons. First, as you said, the number of women in security, it's heartbreaking. It's in single digit in percentages. STEM is somewhere close to 10 to 12%, but security is hovering around like 6 to 8%. And we need to do something about it. And why I feel we need to do something about it is because when we build products and services, we are catering to a very diverse population. These products and services are not only for men, they are for women, they are for underrepresented minorities. So these are the products for everyone. And when you're building such products, you want to make sure that they are part of shaping these products. Because otherwise, how will you cater to the needs of this diverse population? And I also feel like more diverse teams, they build more innovative products, because when they come together, there is a diverse thinking. Yeah, we will need more and more people in cybersecurity. During actually the pandemic, more companies are hiring cybersecurity experts, as you said, because they see the need. I would say that, first of all, grades is not the primary thing, and that should not be the determining factor of what you want to do. It should be your passion that should determine, like, do you really enjoy what you're doing? And you may not be getting the best grade possibly. If you're enjoying what you're doing, you will thrive in the working culture, because it will be like, I'm not working, I'm doing what I would have done if I had free time. So think about it this way. And
do you think that the grades though will keep them from getting those jobs? Do you feel that it will be a hindrance? I don't
think so.
I think there's such a large gap and a need.
Yeah. Not just the gap in the need. I know so many people in our industry who haven't even gone to college, to be honest. Like they don't even have a college degree. And when I say they don't have a college degree, I'm not saying they don't have a college degree in computer science. They don't just have a college degree. Their education was all the way up to high school, and that's pretty much it. And they still have really good jobs in tech industry because that's their passion. They were spending 8 to 10 or maybe even more hours every day learning the space. And some of the well-known defenders that we have on the team, they have been doing it since their school days because they somehow got interested in this, and then they are spending their every spare cycle trying to figure out how systems work. They are tinkerers.
Right, right.
So I wouldn't worry about grades.
So if this is a field that you enjoy, you should stick with it. And don't worry about the grades. It will, the more knowledge, the more you're in it, the more you will learn and the better you will do.
Totally.
Any other words, any other advice?
We need more women, as you mentioned. So anyone listening to this, and if you think that, if you're even like in doubt or considering this, please come and join us.
Antel, I'm going to ask a very unfair question of you.
Fair enough.
I'm preparing you. What would you say you think will be the biggest threats that we're going to face in the coming months?
That's a very relevant question, Adriana. I was like, what is that unfair question going to be? I think for the next few months, people will be very focused on disinformation because of our US election coming up. But to bring the conversation back to the healthcare, because that's what this particular series focuses on, I would say ransomware is going to continue to pick up. So we have to button down, we have to spend more energy, especially in the healthcare sector, to make sure that ransomware is not becoming a big area of concern for us. I also feel as we are focusing our energy on building this contact tracing app, when we build these apps, we have to keep focus on security and privacy, because you cannot try to solve one problem and create another problem in the background. So ensuring that as we collect our users' data as they use this app for contact tracing, their sensitive information remains secure and it is not shared inappropriately. So those are some of the challenges that we are going to see in the upcoming months.
Well, and I guess given these challenges, you see probably more companies are going to have to invest. Maybe the multinationals are there, small, medium companies. This is going to be a challenge for them to keep up to speed and have everything. So how do you see, they're going to have to talk to their boards. They're going to need a budget. And in order to get the budget, they need to talk to their boards. And talk to me a little bit about that. How do you see this future with regards to companies and their going through this process?
Yeah, actually, Microsoft just did a survey with some, I would say, medium-sized companies, companies with more than 500 employees, just to see how this budget trending is looking like for their cybersecurity initiatives. And 58% of the companies said that they are investing more because of this pandemic, because of the current state of affairs into their cybersecurity initiatives. So that's very reassuring that more and more companies are investing into their cybersecurity initiatives, and they realize the importance of this.
Now, when Radhika was talking, she also referred to some of the other challenges like telemedicine. So these are some of the things which were not there earlier, but they are coming up now. Like our doctors, our healthcare professionals, they were very used to of seeing most of their patients in office, and now they have to rely more and more on the online systems, which were not there. Like we are very quickly catching up. Our digital transformation in many aspects is happening at accelerated rate. So for us to stay secure as we are transforming a lot of our sectors, we have to invest. There are more jobs in this space, more companies are hiring. So we need a bigger talent pool.
And we need Radhika to be out there and recruiting our training and whatnot, so that we can then send them over, right, Radhika? Is that the process? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Radhika, you're on mute.
There we go.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, indeed, that's what we are trying. We see, Anshul, you were so right. There is such a greater demand for security professionals. Overall, there's a greater demand for technology people. And the nice thing is our program is growing, but then we also have, I think, what you know, a little, not every student is interested in technology and they get in STEM. And so we are creating all of the incentives and marketing to get them, and particularly in cybersecurity. And just before you logged in, I was talking to David and I was telling him, we are also trying these certifications. So it's not just enough that we train them conceptually, but also we try to give them some industry certifications and standards. And Microsoft Azure, we are trying to do some certification in that area too. So one thing that is very clear, we need these professionals, we need the educational institutions and our divisions like STEM divisions to ramp up, but we also need partnership with you all, to help us know how to get ready and how to get our students motivated.
Yeah, I think, and what I try to explain to students is, regardless of what field you're in, cyber today is something you have to know. It's basic. And it wasn't like that before. So in all the classes that I teach, I always talk about the importance of cybersecurity. It's something that every employer is going to look for as a basic, because they want to make sure that their information is not going to be hacked, and that the individuals that they have working for them will take the appropriate steps and take this seriously. And so organizations, I think all of us working together, Jim with the fund, and Anchel, you're always out there talking to women and promoting, and all of us as a group, it's very powerful because we all have a different role and it works. This network, this is something that is not only for the leadership forum and to come here, but behind the scenes, each one of us is working very hard and we line up very nicely. And that's a benefit that we have with this network. There was one more video slide, a quick one that I wanted to show with regards to Christian Edwards and what's going on in Chile, because Chile, Jim mentioned how lucky we are right now with this pandemic. Not that anybody's lucky, and I should be careful because things can be taken out of context. But if you look at the glass half full, at least here we have been looking at the laws. We have privacy to some degree. We understand that there's an issue. We have the CCPA that just came out, and we have the GDPR that these multinationals have all been working with and trying to understand. Because as you know, in Europe, the GDPR, depending on the country, there are different enforcement procedures, and not all regulatory authorities are as stringent. So a company really needs to understand which country they're in. Who are the enforcement authorities? Is it high, medium, or low risk? And what are they going after? It's like when you're driving and you're driving through the United States, you know that you better be very, very careful with speeding when you're in the Midwestern section of the US. But if you get to California or Miami, the police are actually going after something else. So you can do those California, stops in California because chances are the police are going to be going after something else. It's the same thing when you're dealing with privacy laws. Depending, just because you know GDPR, it doesn't mean that you really fully understand what the enforcement is going to be like, whether they have high penalties, criminal liability. All of these things are very, very important to our executives. And so to me, it's the ability to tell these students, and as we're molding this, we are creating that future for them. So it's a very good place. And for those executives that are already out there that have not had the training, we have a place like ISC Squared where they can feel comfortable learning and realize they're not alone and go back every year. And that's really what I enjoy, is I know that when I get there, there are going to be people in other sectors that I may not understand exactly what they're doing in cyber, but we are engaging one another and we are learning. We learn through the seminar, but we also learn from one another what our own challenges are. And that's a great space. So anyway, so the issue is, though, in this country, we're pretty safe in the fact that at least we understand privacy is an issue. In Europe, they really know the issue, right? A little bit, they're more advanced than we are because they see it as a fundamental right to privacy. But there are other countries like in Latin America. Latin America right now is only starting to develop the privacy laws and regulations and their adaptation in some places of the GDPR. But the knowledge of what that means is only just beginning. So I've got a short video of Christian Edwards on Chile, and this program, this leadership series, will continue probably in a different format, and we will continue to look at issues as they arise, global threats, and obviously privacy and the pandemic and cybersecurity attacks are going to be part of this, but it is going to focus a little bit more on Latin America and some of these developing countries, as well as some of the issues that we're going to be facing here, like supply chain is going to be hot, and how is cyber, related. So it will continue, but I do want to thank all of you for being present, and we will continue to see each other behind the scenes as we have in the past, and hopefully collaborate and join the other Global Risk and Threat Series speakers. You are slowly starting to integrate and speak and put together other projects, and I'm excited about that. So, but I want to thank you, and I'm going to leave everyone with a video from Christian Edwards, where he is inviting you to come down to Latin America. And once the pandemic is over, I've invited him to come visit us. I invite everybody to come to the University of Oklahoma. And of course, he took that to then invite everyone to Chile. So thank you for being with us, and look forward to staying in touch. Christian Edwards is a partner with the leading Chilean law firm of Puga Ortiz. Previously, he served as the general counsel and the chief compliance officer for Principal Financial Group in Chile.
Thank you, Adriana. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on such pressing matters, COVID-19 and the business of healthcare. The ability to collaborate with leaders around the world is invaluable. As you know, the Latin American region is only now beginning to fully understand the repercussions of global privacy laws. Chile is confronting both cybersecurity attacks and COVID-19 pandemic simultaneously, and we are experiencing several challenges with just beginning to adapt GDPR principles. We welcome the opportunity to collaborate with you and the other speakers so that we can move out of this fragility and begin to recover economically.
So this concludes our program, the Global Risk and Threats Series Leadership Forum. And I would like to let everyone know that yesterday was the Independence Day for Chile. So we are pretty excited about that. And I wish to give a special shout out to Chile and also to my students at the University of Oklahoma and my former students from all the other universities where I've taught. So stay safe, and we look forward to hearing from you. Reach out to us, and you can learn more about these speakers, their highlights, and where to find them. Thank you.